All right, we are just about ready to start this. Just promptly just get started the stream. We will begin in just a second. If anybody that is watching and is on the chat, what did you think of this Ryan Garcia Luke Campbell fight? My God, that sure as hell was something. But yeah, it was certainly one of the most. This is one of the best fight cards. At the end of the when it's all said and done, this fight card is gonna end up being one of the best fight cards of 2021. I mean, the top 3 fights on this DAZN show was absolutely phenomenal in my opinion, and we have just and we're only two days into 2021, and we're finally getting some damn good fights here on DAZN, and really this couldn't be a better way to kick off the year in my opinion, which is great because boxing typically takes a bit of a backseat, especially in the United States, from sort of mid to late December all the way to mid-January. We're not going to get like a big-time US boxing card until January 23rd, if I'm not mistaken, which is the Showtime fight between I think it's Angelo. Well, I think it's a Showtime card, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have it off the top of my head, but anybody that watched this entire DAZN card from start to finish, what do you think of that card? Because I certainly thought it was one of the most brilliant cards I've seen DAZN do in quite some time. We had 3 title fights. All of them were very, very good. All of them carried their own drama, their own level of incredible action. It was a lot of fun. But I guess I'll just start off right here with my quick thoughts, and we'll get into deeper into the fight, into the main event once we go through the undercard. But just real quickly, Ryan Garcia had a lot of questions about him, and I was one of the guys that started to actually appreciate and believe a little bit in the Ryan Garcia hype once he started getting trained by Eddie Reynoso, and he had Canelo Alvarez brought in as the big brother mentor type of role, type of guy that that he's been. And we have seen Ryan Garcia evolve, develop, and mature before our very eyes ever since he had that majority decision against Carlos Morales. And, Ryan Garcia moved on to Eddie Reynoso, and you cannot tell me that the Ryan Garcia, Eddie Reynoso, Canelo relationship has been anything short of just absolutely incredible and successful. It was and this fight more than proved it. Ryan Garcia definitely needs to develop some more. I think there were a lot of things that you can kind of improve upon when it's all said and done. But you came out of this fight with more questions answered than questions asked, which is, I think, in my opinion, the thing that you needed most to find out most about Ryan Garcia. And he did so. He got knocked down, but then he came back and just had a tremendous outing. But there were still some things he could still work on, and he ended the night with a brilliant left hand to the body that dropped Luke Campbell to a knee and couldn't get right back up. That's how good Ryan Garcia is. He stopped a guy that neither Jorge Linares nor Vasily Lomachenko was able to do. Now, granted, Luke Campbell hasn't been in the ring in, I want to say, it's been 17 months since he last stepped foot into the ring. And, Lomachenko's not exactly a knockout artist like Ryan Garcia. Same goes for Jorge Linares, but getting that on his resume, beating Luke Campbell, I should say, and stopping him in 7 rounds, it was incredible. It was absolutely fantastic. And Ryan Garcia is now the new interim WBC lightweight champion. Or not champion, title holder. I mean, he's not a champion of anything at this point. Interim belts don't really mean anything, but they do kind of mean something in the context of what's next for Ryan Garcia, which is, it should be Devin Haney, but Ryan Garcia has kept calling Gervonta Davis out to a fight, and I'm just going to straight up say, as good as Ryan Garcia has looked and as impressed as I am, he's not beating Gervonta Davis. And in all honesty, I would actually kind of put Ryan Garcia as a slight underdog against Devin Haney. And, there's no slight on Ryan Garcia, but you look at guys like Devin Haney, you look at guys like Gervonta Davis and Teofimo Lopez, they are more developed. Devin Haney is a far better defensive boxer than Luke Campbell, and Devin Haney does have his own brand of power that I think is somewhat underrated because of what we saw in the Yuri Ortiz Gamboa fight, but it certainly would be a competitive fight. I mean, you can put Ryan Garcia against Gervonta Davis, against Teofimo Lopez, against a Lomachenko or a Devin Haney, and I think all those fights would be fantastic. And as we saw right here, Luke Campbell versus Ryan Garcia. Definitely give it a watch. I highly recommend it. If you have the Zone subscription and you did not get a chance to watch this fight, go out of your way to watch. Actually, go out of your way to watch the last 3 fights on the Zone card, which were all just stellar. They were all fantastic. There were plenty of knockdowns, plenty of violence in all 3 of those title fights. But before we kind of get into that, first of all, you're going to get the plugs out of the way. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon for alerts of when I put out new videos and when I do these streams, which I'm kind of starting to do a little more often. You can follow me on Twitter at Carlos Toro Media, which is where I'll post a lot about boxing news, a lot of my opinions, etc., etc., etc. And we're gonna start off with not Ryan Garcia, but Sean Garcia, who opened the night with a, let's be honest, pretty disappointing first fight, against Rene Marquez. It ended with Sean Garcia winning by majority decision, 39-37, 39-37, and 38-38. And overall, Sean is not Ryan Garcia. I'm going to say this right now. Sean is a long-term development project if that's what Golden Boy Promotions wants to do. But Sean Garcia, I mean, he was at times the more aggressive fighter. He was landing a couple of clean shots, but then you go into late into the 3rd round and you saw I forgot the name, Rene Marquez, and Rene Marquez was just coming on late into the fight, being aggressive, making the fight a really difficult one and closing the distance, just overall being up in Sean Garcia's face. And Sean Garcia, he did not look good heading into that 4th round, and he lost that 4th round. I mean, Rene Marquez was just on his tail throughout the entire round, and you kind of left that fight thinking that if the fight actually went to a 6th round fight, that Sean Garcia was actually going to lose. That's how bad he was looking after the 4th round. He got the win. He moved to 6-0 as a pro, but I mean, if you're out here looking for a similar type of fighter as Ryan Garcia, you're not going to find it in Sean Garcia. You're not. And then we moved on to Raul Curiel versus Ramses Agaton. Middleweight fight, it was kind of a last-second type of thing. I believe Ramses Agaton came in with maybe like a week or so notice, so didn't have a lot of time to prepare here, and you could tell from the very beginning. I mean, Raul Curiel just drops Ramses Agaton almost immediately with a beautiful left hand to the body, which, by the way, left hands dropping guys all night long. That was the theme of this show, if there was any. And Curiel was just completely decimating Ramses Agaton, and he dropped him, in the first round. He then landed several big shots upstairs and to the body, and Ramses Agudon really didn't have anything. It didn't have anything for Raul Curiel. Good prospect, I believe, at junior middleweight, I believe. I think the fight was technically contested at middleweight, but Raul Curiel, I believe, for all intents and purposes, is a junior middleweight prospect. And Ramses Agudon's corner threw in the towel, and that's kind of where we left it off there. So, we now move on to the first title fight. We go into Felix Alvarado versus DJ Creel for the IBF Light Flyweight title. And I joked on Twitter that about halfway through this fight, this is the best fight of 2021. It still technically is, because we've only had one big fight card this year, but Felix Alvarado and DJ Creel just had a sensational fight. In my opinion, the best fight of the night, which is really saying something. And DJ Creel was dropped twice, both from tremendous left hooks from Felix Alvarado. And Alvarado was completely dominating the first 4 rounds of the fight. He was cutting off the ring of DJ Creel. DJ Creel didn't really have much of an answer. He tried to fight back and tried to make Alvarado chase him, but Alvarado, to his credit, he was cutting off the ring. He was landing the left hand all night long, and DJ Creel, his problem was that he was moving up in weight. He was a former minimum weight champion and moved up to light flyweight, and even though it's 3 pounds more, you have to kind of consider that 105 pounds to 108 pounds, you're essentially gaining almost 3% more in weight, which is not the same as if you were going from 140, say to a 140 to 147 or right around. It is a little bit of a struggle. And when you're a fighter at minimum weight, it is often the division with the least amount of knockout power and punching power. And I think this is one thing that was more or less evident right here. DJ Creel did not have the power to sort of hang on with Felix Alvarado. And Alvarado was just dominating this fight. Credit to DJ Creel, he kept fighting forward, and he showed a tremendous amount of heart, tremendous amount of toughness, and he kept fighting on. There were times where he even landed a couple of good shots in midway through the fight, but Alvarado was just completely dominant in this fight. There was a point in the 9th round, about 20 seconds left in the 9th round. Alvarado landed another big combination, and he almost hurt and stopped DJ Creel, and Creel was able to make it to the corner, but at that point, the fight was essentially over. DJ Creel, at that point, there was nothing left for him to do. He was dropped twice. He was hurt real bad at the end of the 9th round, and really the corner and the referee should have just stopped it right there, but Creel came back and fought for maybe about a minute and a half or so, and Felix Alvarado just bombarded DJ Creel with a number of big shots and forced the referee to kind of stop right there. So it was a good stoppage, but I really wouldn't have an issue whatsoever. They had stopped the fight before the start of the 10th round. But Felix Alvarado retains his IBF Light Flyweight Championship, and that 108-pound division, no one talks about it. No one on this side of the world talks about it, or at least most people don't talk about the 108-pound division. That is a tremendous weight class at the top. You look at guys like Kenshiro Teraji, Hiroto Kayoguchi, you look at Elwin Soto, you look at, who else am I missing? There's a lot of, Carlos Canizales, and now you look at Felix Alvarado. That quintet of fighters and title holders, you can make like a round robin style of tournament for, I don't know, you can do that for like the next 18 to 24 months, and all you be getting is fight of the year contenders. This was kind of an example of how good the light flyweight division is. And DJ Creel is a very good fighter, was a very good champion, or it was a good fighter when he was champion at 105 pounds, moved up to 108 because he kind of got screwed over because there was a purse bid for a title fight of his against a mandatory challenger, and it ended up being like $25,000 the winning bet. Like, there's something absolutely ridiculous and stupid. But now you look at what's next for DJ Creel. It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, he can't really hang on with big punchers like Felix Alvarado, and Kenshiro Teraji is certainly a big punch fighter, a big fighter with a lot of power in both of his hands. Elwin Soto's another guy. Carlos Cañizales, tremendous volume puncher with a lot of speed, and Kayoguchi is arguably the best overall boxer in that division. So it's hard to really say anything for DJ Creel as far as him winning a title. He could, he's very talented, but I just don't see it against this current crop of champions. Alvarado, I hope he gets a world title unification sometime soon, because my God, you gotta make unification fights at 108 pounds. I mean, if there was a division that desperately needed a World Boxing Super Series style of tournament, it's the light flyweight division. That's how talented they are, and that's how much this division needs exposure, needs champions fighting each other. This is a great division. I would certainly put it at the top of divisions that I would love to see a World Boxing Super Series tournament. But now we're kind of moving on to the co-main event, which, by the way, credit to the Zone, because this is we're only 16 minutes into this podcast, and I already gave my quick thoughts on the main event, and we already went through 3 of the 4 undercard fights. This was a really well-paced show, and there was really not a bad fight at all. I mean, Ryan Garcia versus Rene Marquez was interesting, not necessarily great, but it provided a lot of drama at the very end. But you want to talk about drama, especially at the end, is Roger Gutierrez versus Rene Alvarado, Felix Alvarado's twin brother, for the WBA super featherweight title. And just a quick background on the WBA super featherweight title, or at least the one that now Roger Gutierrez owns, but was previously held by Rene Alvarado. So the issue with this fight was that, with this title, goes all the way back to, I believe, 2017, when Jesrito Corrales missed weight for a title defense against Alberto Machado on HBO. And Corrales held the super version of the 130-pound title for the WBA. Once he was stripped of the title, that title, it was the I believe the only world title for the WBA at 130 pounds. Machado won the belt, but then you fast forward a few months later, and then that title kind of got relegated into the world/regular/secondary title slot when they announced that Gervonta Davis versus Jesus Cuellar was going to be for the new WBA Super 130-pound title, which is absolutely bogus. And then, really, is in an unofficial manner, the title that Machado had, which then was won by Andrew Cancio, which then was won by Rene Alvarado, and now won by Roger Gutierrez, is kind of being considered as the unofficial, real world title at 130 pounds for the WBA. And this was a damn good one. Roger Gutierrez scores 2 knockdowns in the 3rd round, just completely out of nowhere, and lands a couple of good shots and drops Rene Alvarado twice. And we all kind of are thinking, this fight could get stopped. It could have been stopped with a careless referee up in the 3rd round. But then Rene Alvarado just started landing these big shots, landing a couple of damn good left hands upstairs. There was one particular right hook that kind of caused a cut that sort of on the right side of, or at least near the left eye, I should say, of Roger Gutierrez. And then the cut started to getting worse, and then Rene Alvarado actually started landing shots near the cut and caused another big cut, like directly above the left eye of Roger Gutierrez. And it seemed for a quick second that Rene Alvarado, because he was landing the cleaner punches, because he was outworking and outboxing Roger Gutierrez for most of the 4th round to the 11th, it almost seemed like we were finally going to get Rene Alvarado winning on the scorecards. But then came Roger Gutierrez in the 12th round and drops Rene Alvarado a third time, just completely out of nowhere. Again, just utter shock and surprise. And once we got the scorecards, we now find out that Roger Gutierrez actually needed the knockdown in the 12th round to win it, because all three cards ended with 113 to 112 in favor of Roger Gutierrez. So he literally needed that 12th round knockdown to beat Rene Alvarado. If he had not done that, the fight could have ended in a draw. A very bizarre draw, like almost similar to like a Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury situation, where Wilder dropped Tyson Fury twice in the first fight, but Tyson Fury was able to outbox Deontay Wilder, and then the fight ended in a decision, in a draw regardless. So I have no problem with the scores. 113, 112 is how I had it too. Rene Alvarado was clearly the better boxer for most of the fight, but you can't ignore the 3 knockdowns that Roger Gutierrez scored. So I would say, regardless of what the score is going to be, you need to do a trilogy fight, because this was a rematch from their first fight in 2017 when Alvarado won, when I believe Roger Gutierrez's corner, not necessarily said no much, but he couldn't continue. Like, he couldn't continue in his corner, stopped him from going out in that fight. So we need the rubber match. It's now 1-1, and given the recent history of the WBA title that Roger Gutierrez now owns, we are going to see a rematch, because that's kind of how been the nature. Alberto Machado and Andrew Cancio had 2 fights. Rene Alvarado and Andrew Cancio had, their 2 fights overall, and now we could get Roger Gutierrez versus Rene Alvarado 3. And so now we kind of move on to the main event, Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell. I'll be honest with you. I picked Ryan Garcia to win with a close decision, like a 7-5, 8-4 scorecard. And to me, and I was saying this multiple times, I have no problem if the fight ended in a scorecard, with a decision. I had no problem with Ryan Garcia going the distance, because to me, just beating Luke Campbell in whatever manner that he needed to get the win, I got no problem. Would have been very impressed, because Luke Campbell is a quality fighter. Not necessarily elite, but he's a top 10 lightweight right now. And that was one of the biggest questions, is can he hang with top 10 fighters at 135 pounds? And it turns out that for the first 2 rounds, we're now kind of thinking, maybe not. So let's kind of take it more or less round by round. So Ryan Garcia was the aggressor, was throwing a lot of punches and chasing Luke Campbell throughout the ring, backing him up, not necessarily pinning Luke Campbell up against the ropes, but it was certainly the aggressor and doing a lot more in that first round. So I gave that first round to Ryan Garcia. Then came the second round, and Luke Campbell just floors Ryan Garcia with an absolutely beautiful left hook that even Luke Campbell was surprised that he actually knocked down Ryan Garcia. Like, you look at the replays, and Luke Campbell, immediately after Ryan Garcia touched the canvas, like, you can just tell, like, you look at Luke Campbell's face, his face was like complete and shocked, like, what? And it almost seemed like that maybe that Ryan Garcia was all hype. And credit to Ryan Garcia, he managed to get back up. He managed to fight back and actually land some good shots. Arguably won rounds 3, 4, and most of 5. But they were very close rounds. And the real dramatic part came in the end of the 5th round, when Ryan Garcia just levels Luke Campbell with a left-right combination, and had the round maybe been about 10 seconds longer, Luke Campbell probably would have been dropped. Like, he got hurt real bad, and it kind of started, and it led to the 6th round just being like this bizarre, like, 30, 40-second flailing fest by Ryan Garcia where he was just throwing these absurdly wild haymakers for God knows whatever reason. Like, he let his emotions get the best of him there, and I really didn't have the volume up when I was watching the fight in between the corners for round 6 and 7, but you can kind of tell that Eddie Reynoso was not happy with what Ryan Garcia was doing in those first 30-40 seconds of the 6th round, because he got tired. Ryan Garcia tired himself out, and he wasn't at a point where he was just dead tired and was just getting hit left and right, but it was very uncharacteristic. It was very uncharacteristically weird for Ryan Garcia to just be doing these bizarre things that, like, you don't see an Eddie Reynoso fighter do. Like, before Eddie Reynoso, there was something you could see Ryan Garcia doing, but not while under the tutelage of Eddie Reynoso. So he was able to sort of overcome whatever the hell he was doing in that 6th round. Then came the 7th round, and Garcia was really on point with a lot of the stuff he was doing. He was landing some good shots here and there, and then just finishes the fight with this absolutely breathtaking left hook to the liver, where Luke Campbell was just dropped. He went to a knee, and he was just, you can tell he wanted to get back up, but his body just wouldn't let him. So he went back up. He tried to go back up, but couldn't, and was not able to respond to the referee's 10 count. And Ryan Garcia emerged victorious and is the new interim WBC lightweight title holder. And I gotta tell you, this fight showed a lot of promise for Ryan Garcia. I mean, we saw it in DJ Creel, and we saw in Rene Alvarado. They got dropped, but they fought back. And especially in the case of Rene Alvarado, he was outboxing Roger Gutierrez. So there was really no excuse for Ryan Garcia to not get back up and start winning this fight, because Rene Alvarado was essentially doing that before he got dropped in the 12th round, and DJ Creel was boxing better after he got dropped twice by Felix Alvarado. So there was really no excuse for Ryan Garcia to sort of do the same, and he did that. He absolutely did that, and I gotta tell you, I love this performance from Ryan Garcia. There were still a couple of things that I think he needs to work on. First of all, I think that defensively he still has a couple of mental lapses. I think that he needs to watch out for the left hands. And when you're going up against a guy like Devin Haney, when you're going up against a guy like Gervonta Davis, those aren't things that you can simply leave unchecked. That's something that you're gonna have to work on defensively. Gonna have to work on not leaving his chin up high at times in the fight, because guys like Gervonta Davis and Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney, they will take advantage of that. And Ryan Garcia still needs to work on that a little bit. Needs to work a little bit on the maturity, on the in-ring poise. I mean, he certainly showed a lot of promise in the first 4 fights under Eddie Reynoso, but at times it did kind of feel like a step back when he was going up against Luke Campbell, especially in the start of the 6th round, where he let the emotions get the best of him, tried to go for the knockout, he tried to force a punch and a knockout and a combination that wasn't quite there, and he thought it was there, but it just wasn't. So Luke Campbell was the perfect test for Ryan Garcia. We now know, 1, Ryan Garcia can get dropped, he can get knocked down, but almost every fighter can get knocked down, so it really doesn't tell me that much. But what it does tell me is that Ryan Garcia can get knocked down, but he can get back up, and he can win fights, and he can knock guys out after being dropped. So there's a lot to really like about this Ryan Garcia performance. However, when you put him up against the Teofimo Lopez's, the Vasily Lomachenko's, the Devin Haney's of the world, the Gervonta Davis's of the world, you put Ryan Garcia up against any of those 4 fighters, I would actually favor the other fighters in each fight than Ryan Garcia. I think Garcia is still too green. I think he still needs to work on a few more things, and I think he will get better. I mean, there are things to like about Ryan Garcia, and the things that Ryan Garcia still needs to improve upon, there are things you can work on in the gym, and Eder Reynoso is a talented enough of a trainer, and you got Canelo Alvarez as a mentor / big brother, so he can get better. Will he be at a Teofimo Lopez level? I don't know. That's still something that kind of remains to be seen, but I did like what I see from Ryan Garcia. I thought that Ryan Garcia was excellent. I thought that he was poised and was doing a lot of great stuff after he got dropped by Luke Campbell. So now what is next? So he is the mandatory challenger, quote unquote, to Devin Haney's WBC title. But the thing is, Javier Fortuna also has has a say in the WBC Lightweight World title picture. So that is something that you need to sort of take a look at and figure out what you're going to do from there. I could see a scenario where, first of all, and before I get into that, first of all, I don't see Ryan Garcia fighting Gervonta Davis. Not way too complicated to make that fight happen. I don't see it. And that's a fight that I think is best served waiting until you can get a major crowd. And that's something you're probably not going to get in 2021. But back to Devin Haney. You can have Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney maybe paying Fortuna a step-aside fee. And you can get Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney in the ring together at some point this year. And have the winner fight Javier Fortuna. By then, we won't know what's going to happen with Gervonta Davis because he's fighting at 130. He's fighting 135 as well. Teofimo Lopez is not going to stay at lightweight forever. It's not a question of if Teofimo Lopez moves up to junior welterweight. It's going to be a question of when Teofimo Lopez moves up to junior welterweight. So it's going to be a race against time if you still want to see an undisputed lightweight champion. Quite frankly, if the WBC can help it, and if Lopez and Devin Haney can try to make something together, you can absolutely put an undisputed title fight right now. Right now, you can do that. You can do that. It's been long enough since both guys last fought that they've rested. They got plenty of time to prepare. Just make the fight happen. I would love to see that happen. It's not. I would give him like a 20% chance of that fight happening. So it's gonna be sad that we're not gonna get an undisputed title fight more than likely. But there's still a lot of great fights to be made at lightweight. And regardless of what happens with Ryan Garcia and his whatever future title opportunity, I have a feeling that he's more than talented enough to get multiple title shots at lightweight. So to anyone that believes that the quote-unquote hype train got derailed a little bit, or that maybe he's going to fall short in his first world title attempt, I mean, he's still young. All of these lightweight champions are still young. That's the amazing thing. So I think that I think there's a lot to love about the lightweight division for years to come. And I guess by extension, the junior welterweight division, because I have a feeling Devin Haney could potentially make that move up to 140 pounds as well. Maybe Gervonta Davis could also experiment at 140 pounds as well. So maybe not so much the lightweight division, but that quartet of fighters of Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Gervonta Davis, and Ryan Garcia, you can have some really damn good fights throughout the decade between those 4 fighters. And I hope it happens. I really, really hope it happens. So I think that'll do it for this little live recap podcast. Going to be doing a lot more of these as 2021 rolls around. Maybe not necessarily not anytime soon, because we're not going to get big time boxing for another few weeks. I think for another 3 weeks at the very least. So that's going to be something to sort of watch out for. But that's not going to stop me from putting out content here on this channel. So as I mentioned at the start of the show, hit the subscribe button and hit that bell icon for alerts on when new videos and streams are coming up. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at CarlosToro360. Until then, Carlos Toro here, and I hope you guys have a good one.